What's the worst thing you've ever heard a teacher say at school? When I was about 9, our teacher asked the class what we wanted to be when we grew up. One kid said he wanted to be a bin man, a garbage man. For US readers, the teacher went into a rant, saying that jobs like these were for the lowest, most unintelligent people in society, and that he should aspire to be better than that. Finally she asked why he wanted to be a bin man anyway. Because my dad's one, said the kid, by now in tears. I was always taught to never disrespect a man's livelihood, unless it is dishonest. This teacher is an ass. A man's work is how he provides for himself, and those dependent on him, and not a soul can judge him on that. Obviously this applies to women as well. Age of 9. Lost my father in a horrific accident. I returned to school a few days later, and after attendance was taken the teacher said to me in front of the class got together and sent flowers to your father's funeral. I paid your share, so make sure you bring in $2 to more hours I need to be paid back. She then went on with the lessons. As many have asked what happened, I asked to see the school nurse and was sent home. Once home I told my mother. Returning to school 2 days later I never saw the teacher again. I don't know how my mother handled it. This wasn't said directly to me, but in middle school I had a teacher grab me from the lunch table and drag me to the principal's office. After grilling me for a while and telling me I know what I did, they finally revealed to me that the teacher stated she witnessed me suggestively sucking my thumb while staring at a female friend of mine. I was just biting my nail. One day in a history class my professor, who is at least 80 years old, was talking about bedfellows in Victorian England and was saying how common it was for men to sleep together. He used himself as an example and said that he used to sleep with his grandfather all the time as a child. After he said that, though, he looked at the ground and said to himself, audibly, I still wonder to this day if he molested me. Then he looked back at us, shrugged, and said, oh well, too late to know for sure now. It was fascinating to see someone overcome deep-seated trauma so quickly. Not really the worst, but once in high school my teacher legitimately asked the blind girl in our class why she wasn't going up to check her grade on the grade sheet. One of my college professors straight up said one day, from my experience, African American students tend to drop my class the most. It's probably too hard for them. Any of you notice how we haven't seen that one black chick who used to sit in the front row for weeks now? Guy was immediately shot down when the black chick raised her hand from the back row saying she'd been here the whole time. She just moved to the back row cause that's where her boyfriend was sitting. Congratulations, you're a marriage of dumbest made in heaven. I had a teacher in elementary school who after every test would pick the lowest scoring girl and lowest scoring boy in the class and force them to hold hands, perform a brief marriage ceremony on them in front of the laughing class, without the kissing part ofs, and have all the other kids sing Here Comes the Bride. Then she'd have the two kids sit together at the side of the classroom for rest of the lesson, and they weren't allowed to stop holding hands until bell rang. Not the worst ever, but it really fucked with me. There are literally millions of other cute little Chinese girls just like you that are much better than you and can replace you. Edit. For context, I study animation and am also Chinese. I was asking my teachers for advice on how to get better at drawing faster, as I wasn't very happy with my skill level and was stressed about being left behind by my peers. Most of my teachers were very supportive, but obviously not all of them lol. I did work very hard despite him, though, and did get a scholarship from it. You just can't break my spirit. I go to school in the US, and he happened to be a white male teacher, but there are mean people from every race and gender, and good people say shitty things sometimes too. Thank you for all the support. 3. And for others asking about when I said this was not the worst ever, I meant that other people have probably heard worse from teachers. I get, haha. I just wish I was fucking dead. Overheard by complete chance while wandering the corridors during a free period. Turned right back around and took the long route so I wouldn't have to walk past the classroom. It was a bit of a broken pedestal moment for me, but I never told anyone else about it. The teacher who said it was one of our most beloved history teachers who we later found out had been stopped from committing suicide at least twice by one of the deputy heads, who'd been friends with him since their university days in the past. Not stopped as in talked things out and convinced him it wasn't the best way to deal with his problems, but as in physically picked up and dragged away from the window. The deputy head was quite intimidating as a teacher, but we gained a lot of respect for him after learning that. Male teacher was talking about the dress code to me and a friend of mine during lunch. He stated he doesn't like seeing a bunch of fatties in short shorts, but then gestured towards a thin girl in short shorts walking up the step and said, but that I don't mind. When I was in high school, a gym teacher came up to me one day towards the end of class when everyone was just kind of freely shooting basketballs and hanging out on the bleachers. I was standing by myself and walked up and asked me something about the neighboring town. He said, "Did you know that in Alney, they used to hang niggas with velvet?" And then just walked away. It was the only time he ever talked to me. I'm white and he was a black guy, maybe 6'8". I think he was in the NBA for one season or something. Everyone loved him, so I guess he was just messing with me, but he got me pretty good. First day on the job, teacher walks in as the new CAD teacher and his name's on the board. It looks like you'd pronounce it as man. He announces right away that it's not, and that you will be thrown out of his class if you call him that. He does roll and gets to a French African name that looks like it might be pronounced for a gay slur starting with F, does not use better judgment, and uses that slur as a last name. It's pronounced Faj. Jasmine Kid obviously had to deal with this problem his whole life and was not keen on the mix-up. New teacher blows up and is hollering at this 16-year-old who's not backing down. Takes a bit but they both disappear. Teacher was never seen in the building again. This was first period, first day of school. Okay, I have one. When I was in elementary, I got confused at lunchtime and threw my food out early and wandered outside for recess alone. Realizing my mistake and having no idea what to do, I went back inside and told a lunch lady and asked what I should do. She dragged me by the arm to the center of the lunchroom with a live mic and informed everyone of my mistake and how no one should do what I did because it was a bad thing. She told everyone I was going to get expelled. I was sobbing at that point. I kept asking her what expelled meant, but she didn't answer me. All I knew was that it was a bad thing. I never told my mom until years later. And no, I didn't get actually expelled. How dare you write that? You're practically emotionally handicapped. It's psychopathic. Said to me at 12, not even half a year after my mom died. She made us write an essay about our home life, which in retrospect was a fucked up excuse to snoop into my situation, and didn't like how I used humor to cope, so she pulled me out of the class to yell at me for 5 minutes for not being sad enough. I don't even remember what I wrote besides cracking some jokes about my dad's outfits. My best friend lost her dad to cancer when she was 12 and her mom taught her to use humor to cope. She likes to tell people he died and then ask them if they want to see a picture of her and her dad, and then she shows them a picture of her smiling next to his tombstone. Her mom died in February. They cremated her, put her in a wine bottle, and threw her at the Las Vegas sign. We make jokes about how nuts she was LMAO. Mrs. Noodle, my 3rd grade math teacher, 1987. I missed 2 weeks of school due to a horrible case of chicken pox and fell behind with whatever it was that we were working on. A month after I came back to school, I was still struggling with math, but was too young and scared to ask for help. We had a test that I failed. So, Mrs. fucking Noodle brought my 3rd grade self up to the front of the classroom and shamed me. She told the entire classroom that Buffalo will never succeed in math. I ended up crying and going to the nurse with a stomachache. I'll never forget how awful she was to me, and I struggled with math for the rest of the time that I was in school. In tryouts for the school's annual Christmas play, the teacher directing the production denied the most talented and well-suited student the part of playing the Virgin Mary because the girl was black. The teacher said the play would be criticized if a black girl were allowed to play the Virgin. because everyone knows that Mary was white, as God intended. In UK, year 11th, age 15 over 16. An English literature teacher once told my class, polar bears almost exclusively eat penguins. I was not good at literature, but I was good at science subjects, and I was not this teacher's favorite pupil. So when she said this, I quite quickly argued back saying that she was wrong. She protested and I explained that polar bears live in that Arctic Ocean, and while there are various species of penguin, none of them live in the northern hemisphere. This was an open argument during class, and she offered to Google the answer. So she did, and when I was proven correct by the internet, she sent me out the class.